The signal came on a Tuesday night. Olivia Martinez sat alone in the monitoring station deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her job was simple but important. She listened to space. For 3 years, she had heard nothing but random noise and natural signals from stars and planets. Her ears knew the difference between a pulsar, a quasar, and common space static. Tonight was different. At first, she thought she imagined it. A pattern in the noise. 6 pulses, then 4, then 6 again. She adjusted her headphones and increased the volume. The pattern repeated. This was not natural. This was not random. Someone or something was sending this message. Olivia's heart beat faster as she began the verification process. She sent the signal to other listening stations around the world. Within hours, they confirmed what she already knew. This was not from Earth. This was not from any human source. This was the first message from another intelligent life. For the next 3 months, the best codebreakers and language experts worked to understand the message. They discovered it was actually a complex mathematical language. The aliens used math as their way to talk across space because math would be the same everywhere in the universe. At last, they understood what the message said. It came from beings called the Elunari. Their home planet was in danger. Another alien species called the Voidborn was attacking them. The Voidborn had already destroyed 17 worlds in the Elunari's part of space. The Elunari were losing the war, but the most surprising part was why they sent the message to Earth specifically. The Elunari called Earth a death world. In their message, they explained that Earth was a harsh, dangerous planet with strong gravity, extreme weather, and many natural dangers. Any species that could evolve and survive on such a world would be physically stronger than most other intelligent life in the galaxy. The Elunari were desperate. They feared humans because of where we came from, but they needed that same strength to help them fight the Voidborn. Dr. Nathan Cole was the first to point this out during a meeting with government officials and military leaders. It's actually quite ironic, he said, looking up from the translated message. These aliens are terrified of us because we evolved on Earth with its high gravity, dangerous animals, and extreme environments. Yet they're begging for our help because of these same qualities. So they think we're dangerous monsters, but we're the monsters they need right now, said General Laura Hayes, looking thoughtful. Essentially, yes, Dr. Cole replied. According to their data, the Voidborn share some physical traits with humans. They're strong and resilient compared to the Elunari. But the Voidborn are purely aggressive and expansionist. They believe humans have something the Voidborn lack. And what's that? Asked the president. Compassion, said Dr. Cole. The ability to be strong but also kind, to fight to protect others, not just to conquer. The room fell silent as everyone considered this. Humans had spent their entire history looking up at the stars, wondering if they were alone, hoping to find others out there. Now they had their answer, but it came with a request that would change everything. The Elunari had included technical information in their message, plans for faster engines, maps of star systems, details about the Voidborn ships and weapons, everything humans would need to build a fleet and travel to Elunari space. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had been waiting for this moment, a chance to prove themselves among the stars, a chance to be heroes rather than monsters. The signal had reached the Deathworlders. Now their fleet would come not to conquer but to save. 8 months passed after Earth received the alien message. During this time, humans worked day and night to prepare for their first meeting with the Elunari. The United Nations Space Command chose their best ship, the USS Horizon, to make first contact. Captain Kelly Wright would lead the mission with her crew of scientists, diplomats, and security personnel. The meeting point was near Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The Elunari had sent a small scout ship to meet the humans. As the USS Horizon approached, everyone on board felt a mix of excitement and fear. They would be the first humans to ever see aliens face to face. Captain Wright stood tall in her dress uniform. "Remember your training," she told her team. "Be respectful but careful. We don't know what to expect." The Elunari ship was beautiful. It looked like it was made of crystal and silver, with smooth curves instead of sharp angles. It glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed gently, almost like it was breathing. When the Elunari finally came aboard the human ship, Captain Wright was surprised. She had expected many things, but not this. The aliens were tall and thin with skin so clear, you could see through it. Under their skin, a complex network of veins glowed with soft blue light. They moved slowly and carefully. Even with special equipment to help them, they struggled to stand in Earth's normal gravity. The Elunari ambassador was named Talon. When he approached the humans, his whole body trembled. It wasn't just from the gravity. He was afraid. "We thank you for answering our call," Talon said through a translation device. His voice sounded like gentle music. "Our people have debated for many cycles whether we should contact your species." "Why is that?" Captain Wright asked. "Your world would kill us in minutes," Talon explained. "The gravity would crush our bones. The air would burn our lungs. The bacteria would attack our bodies. You survived on a world that is a nightmare to us. This makes you both terrifying and amazing." Lieutenant Alex Rivera, who handled ship security, stepped forward. "You've been watching us for some time, haven't you? Before you sent your distress call." Talon's inner glow dimmed slightly. Captain Wright realized this was probably their version of blushing or showing embarrassment. "Yes," Talon admitted. "We discovered your radio and television signals decades ago. Many on our council feared that contacting Earth might bring a greater threat than the Voidborn. But those of us who studied your stories of heroism and sacrifice believed differently." Dr. Emma Wilson, the ship's xenobiologist, asked, "Can you tell us more about the Voidborn? Why are they attacking your people?" "The Voidborn are like you in some ways," Talon said. "They evolved on a world with higher gravity and harsher conditions than most life-bearing planets. But unlike humans, they show no mercy, no compassion. They do not trade or negotiate, they only conquer." Talon showed them images of the Voidborn. They were tall, with dark exoskeletons and multiple limbs. Their ships were black and angular, covered with weapon systems. "They have destroyed 17 worlds in our Federation," Talon continued. "We cannot match their physical strength or their aggression. Our people are peaceful. We were not built for war." Before the meeting ended, Talon gave Captain Wright a small crystal device. "These are star charts and tactical data about the Voidborn fleet. They will reach our homeworld, Elunari Prime, in 14 months. As the Elunari delegation prepared to leave, Captain Wright made a promise. "We will bring your message back to Earth. I cannot speak for all humans, but I believe we will help." After the alien ship departed, the crew of the USS Horizon stared at the crystal device. It contained technology far beyond human understanding. But more importantly, it contained a plea for help from a peaceful civilization facing extinction. The humans began their journey back to Earth, knowing that everything would now change. The choice they would face was simple, but enormous. Would humanity use their Deathworld strength to protect others, or would they turn away? The large meeting room of the United Nations Security Council was filled with important people. Military leaders, scientists, and politicians from every major nation sat around the big table. They had all seen the evidence from the USS Horizon. They had all studied the Elunari's message and technology. Now they needed to decide if Earth would help these aliens. The room was tense. This was the biggest decision in human history. Defense Secretary Howard Garcia stood up first. He was a tall man with gray hair who had served in many wars. "The Elunari are asking us to send our people halfway across the galaxy," he said in a firm voice. "They want us to fight someone else's war using technology we barely understand. This is too risky." Several military officers nodded in agreement. The risk was real. Humans had never traveled so far from Earth before. Dr. Samantha Beck was next to speak. She had helped decode the original alien signal. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "The Elunari have offered us faster-than-light travel technology," she said. "They've shown us medical advances that could cure many diseases. They're offering us access to hundreds of new planets with resources we need. This isn't charity, it's a fair trade. We help them, and they help us join the galactic community." Admiral Catherine Winters walked to the front of the room. She was a respected leader who had commanded Earth's space forces for many years. She pointed to the screen showing images of void-born battle formations. "We need to think about the bigger picture," she said. "If these void-born are as dangerous as the Elunari say and have already destroyed 17 worlds, what happens when they eventually find Earth? Because they will find us. Better to fight them there than wait for them to come here." The debate continued for hours. Some people worried about the dangers. Others saw the amazing opportunities. Everyone understood that this decision would change humanity forever. Finally, President Linda Reeves stood up. The room became quiet. "Throughout human history, we have faced incredible challenges and survived," she said. "Not just survived, we have grown stronger. Our species evolved in conditions these aliens consider hellish. We turned those harsh conditions into strengths." She looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. "The Elunari need our help. They have asked for our protection against creatures who only want to destroy. If we turn our backs now, what does that say about us? If there are others out there who need our help against tyranny, I say we show the galaxy what humans from a death world can do." Her words were powerful. The mood in the room changed. Even those who had doubts felt a sense of purpose. The Security Council took a vote. It wasn't unanimous, but the majority agreed. Earth would help. The Elunari Operation Distant Shield was authorized. 30 ships would be fitted with Elunari technology. 20,000 volunteers would be trained for the mission. Earth was going to war among the stars. As the meeting ended, Dr. Beck approached Admiral Winters. "Do you think we're making the right choice?" she asked quietly. The Admiral looked at the star map showing the location of the Elunari homeworld and the approaching void-born fleet. "I think we're making the human choice," she replied. "For better or worse, we've never been able to stand by and watch others suffer when we could help. It's what makes us different from the void-born." Dr. Beck nodded. "The Elunari called us Deathworlders because our planet shaped us to be strong. But they're about to learn that Earth taught us more than just how to survive. It taught us how to care." Across the world, the news spread quickly. Humanity was going to the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The Nevada desert became the center of the most important project in human history. What was once empty land was now filled with buildings, training grounds, and spacecraft. This was where Operation Distant Shield would take shape. Elunari engineers worked side by side with human scientists. The aliens moved carefully in their special suits that protected them from Earth's gravity. They showed humans how to combine their technology with Earth's ships. The work was difficult, but progress was fast. Commander Ryan Powell watched his Marines train in the new combat area. He was a tough man who had fought in many battles on Earth. Now he was preparing his soldiers for a war in space. "Again," he shouted as 20 men and women practiced fighting in a room with reduced gravity. They wore experimental exosuits that made them even stronger. "The Elunari gravity is about 1/3 of Earth's. You need to control your movements." One young Marine jumped and hit his head on the ceiling. The others laughed. "This isn't a joke," Commander Powell said firmly. "In Elunari gravity, you'll be able to jump 20 feet with one leap. Your bones and muscles, which grew on Earth, will make you several times stronger than both the Elunari and the Voidborn." He pointed to an Elunari observer watching from behind a safety window. "Remember that this strength makes you dangerous to our allies too. One accidental push could break an Elunari's bones. Control is essential." The Marines nodded seriously and returned to their training. In another building, Dr. Julia Foster made an exciting discovery in her laboratory. She was studying how human biology compared to Elunari and Voidborn samples. "This is amazing," she said to her assistant. "The Elunari weren't just being nice when they called us special. Human biology is remarkably adaptable compared to either species." She pointed to the screen showing test results. "We heal from injuries faster. We can resist radiation better. We can survive in a wider range of atmospheres. I'm developing special medicines that will enhance these natural advantages for our troops." Across the base, Captain Daniel Weber inspected his ship, the USS Defiance. It would be the flagship of the human fleet. Engineers had added Elunari jump drives and weapons to the human vessel. The ship now looked like a combination of human and alien design. "How are the engine tests going?" he asked his chief engineer. "Better than expected, sir," the engineer replied. "The Elunari technology works perfectly with our systems. This ship can now travel faster than light. We could reach Jupiter in minutes instead of months." As launch day approached, the 30 ships of the human fleet gathered in Earth's orbit. They were a mix of military vessels and support ships, all upgraded with alien technology. The USS Defiance was the largest, carrying the joint Human Elunari Command Center. Captain Weber addressed his crew over the ship's speakers. His voice was heard throughout all 30 ships. "Men and women of the Earth fleet, we are about to travel farther than any humans in history. The journey will take 3 months using the Elunari jump drives. When we arrive, we will be the only thing standing between a peaceful civilization and extinction." He paused, looking at the Elunari representative standing with him. "This mission is about more than saving one alien species. It's about showing the galaxy what kind of people we are. We come from a world that other species fear. Let's show them that strength can protect as well as destroy." The crew cheered. The ships prepared for departure. On Earth, millions of people watched on screens as the fleet gathered energy for its first jump. What no one said aloud was that humanity's future now depended on this mission. If they succeeded, Earth would gain powerful allies and amazing technology. If they failed, Earth might be the Voidborn's next target. With a flash of light, the human fleet disappeared into the depths of space. Operation Distant Shield had begun. The human fleet emerged from its third jump point, now halfway to Elunari space. The ships glowed briefly with the energy of faster-than-light travel before settling back to normal. For the crews on board, life had fallen into a routine during the 6 weeks of travel. But many still struggled with the idea that they were no longer alone in the universe. Officer Sofia Diaz worked to help humans and Elunari understand each other better. She created programs where crew members from both species could spend time together and learn from one another. "Understanding each other is as important as fighting together," she told Captain Weber. "We need to be friends, not just allies." Today, she was organizing a meal where human and Elunari crew would share food from their home planets. The dining hall on the USS Defiance had been split into 2 sections with different gravity settings, so both species could be comfortable. "Try this," said a human crew member, offering a small piece of chocolate to his Elunari partner. The alien's skin glowed with excitement as he carefully tasted the sweet food. "Remarkable. The complex flavors. Nothing on our world tastes so intense." In another part of the ship, engineer Eric Summers was showing basic maintenance on a hydraulic system to his Elunari counterpart, Valine. The alien watched carefully. As Eric explained how the system worked, "The pressure needs to stay within these levels," Eric said, pointing to a gauge. "If it gets too high, this valve releases." Suddenly, there was a loud pop. The pressure valve had broken. Hot steam burst from the pipe directly toward Valine. Without thinking, Eric jumped between the alien and the steam. The scalding vapor hit his back, burning through his uniform. Eric fell to the floor in pain. The Elunari called for help on the communication system. Medical teams rushed to the engine room. In the medical bay, Dr. Foster applied healing treatments to Eric's burned back. The skin was red and blistered, but the burns were not life-threatening. Valine stood nearby, watching with amazement. "Your crewmate's reaction time was extraordinary," the alien told Captain Weber, who had come to check on the injured man. "No Elunari could have moved so quickly, and to purposely put himself in danger to protect another. That's what humans do," Captain Weber said simply. "The pain would have killed one of my kind," Valine continued. "Yet he remained conscious and even walked to your medical bay. How is this possible?" Dr. Foster looked up from her work. "Pain tolerance is higher in humans than in many species. We evolved to keep functioning even when injured. It helped us survive on Earth." News of Eric's actions spread quickly through both fleets. The Elunari began to see the humans differently, not just as physical specimens, but as protectors. Human crew members found themselves treated with new respect. Meanwhile, long-range scout ships brought worrying news. The Voidborn fleet had increased its speed. They would reach Elunari Prime 2 weeks earlier than expected. Captain Weber called an emergency meeting with his Elunari counterpart. Shipmaster Nira. The alien's translucent skin pulsed with worry as she looked at the updated flight plans. We need to push the engines harder, Weber suggested. Arrive ahead of schedule. Our vessels are not built to withstand such stress, Nira replied, her voice musical but concerned. The jump drives need time to recharge between uses. Ours are, Weber responded confidently. On Earth, we build everything to endure punishment. Our ships can handle more jumps with less rest time. Let us take the lead. Nira considered this. She had seen enough of humans to know they were different. Their bodies were stronger. Their ships were tougher. Perhaps their plan would work. Very well, she agreed. The human ships will take the lead. But be careful, Captain. Even Deathworlders have limits. Weber nodded. As he left the meeting, he thought about those limits. Humans were pushing into unknown space to fight an enemy they'd never met. They were using technology they barely understood. But there was no turning back now. The fate of two species now depended on what these Deathworlders could do. The combined human and Illuminari fleet arrived at Helios Station, the outermost defense post of Illuminari space. They were just in time. The first wave of void-born ships had already entered the system and was attacking the station. Helios Station was beautiful, built like a giant crystal snowflake floating in space. But now parts of it were broken and burning. Dark, angular void-born ships surrounded it, firing weapons that cut through the delicate structure. Captain Weber took command quickly. All ships, form a defensive perimeter. Marine teams, prepare for boarding actions. We need to evacuate the station personnel immediately. The human ships moved into position, their engines glowing as they accelerated. The Voidborn seemed confused by these new vessels. They paused their attack for a few moments, which gave the human rescue shuttles just enough time to reach the station. Lieutenant Gabriela Ortiz led her squad of Marines onto the damaged station. The corridors were filled with smoke and flickering lights. Parts of the station had no gravity, while others had too much as the systems malfunctioned. Stay low and move fast, she ordered her team. The artificial gravity is unstable. Be careful with any Illuminari survivors. Remember, they're fragile compared to us. They found a group of surviving Illuminari huddled in a reinforced room. The aliens were injured and frightened. One stepped forward, a female with pale blue glow beneath her skin. She was Administrator Solana, the station's leader. You came, she whispered, looking at the human soldiers with wide eyes. The stories were true. The Deathworlders are real. We're here to get you out, Lieutenant Ortiz said kindly. Can your people walk? Some can, Solana replied. Others are too badly hurt. We'll carry them, Ortiz decided. She turned to her team. Gentle hands, people. Remember your training. As they began to escort the survivors back to the shuttles, the station shook violently. A huge section broke away, causing catastrophic damage. Warning alarms blared throughout the structure. The mine. Station is breaking apart, shouted one of the Marines. We need to move faster. Lieutenant Ortiz and her team had to navigate through sections that were losing air pressure. They carried injured Illuminari, who could not withstand the physical stress. The humans' death world strength and endurance were being pushed to their limits. Outside in space, the battle grew more intense. The Voidborn commanders had realized the human vessels posed a serious threat. They concentrated their attacks on 3 Earth ships which took heavy damage but continued fighting. Commander Nicole Harper was aboard the destroyer USS Valiant, one of the ships under attack. Half of her weapons were disabled, and the ship's hull was breached in multiple places, but she refused to retreat. Push forward, she ordered her crew. Show them what Deathworlders are made of. The Valiant accelerated directly toward the center of the Voidborn formation. This was a shocking move that surprised both the Illuminari and the Voidborn. No ship had ever deliberately rammed through enemy lines before, but the Valiant's hull had been designed to withstand the crushing pressures of Earth's deep oceans. It was stronger than any Illuminari vessel. The ship smashed through the Voidborn formation, creating an opening for the rest of the fleet. By the end of the battle, Helios Station could not be saved. but Lieutenant Ortiz and the other rescue teams had evacuated over 2,000 Illuminari survivors. 7 void-born ships had been destroyed. It was a costly first victory. In the medical bay of the USS Defiance, Administrator Solana watched as human doctors treated both human and Illuminari wounded. Her inner glow pulsed with emotion. "I did not believe it when they said humans would come to help us," she told Captain Weber. "Your people are so different from ours. You are stronger, yes, but that is not what makes you special." "What makes us special, then?" Weber asked. "You use your strength to save, not just to destroy," she replied. "Now I understand why the Voidborn fear you more than they fear us. You are their opposite in every way that matters." After 3 weeks of fighting and retreating, the combined fleet fell back to Elunari Prime. The beautiful home planet of the Elunari glowed blue and green beneath them. Billions of civilians had already been moved to safer worlds, but many remained. The massive Voidborn armada had followed them here, entering the system in waves of dark ships. This would be the final battle. If they lost here, the Elunari civilization would end. Admiral Catherine Winters had arrived with reinforcements from Earth. Her ships had made the journey in record time, bringing fresh troops and supplies. Now she stood before the Joint Command on the USS Defiance. "We've studied their tactics," she said, pointing to the display showing Voidborn battle formations. "The Voidborn expect their enemies to follow logical battle plans. They expect us to protect our strongest assets and retreat. When we lose too many ships," she smiled grimly. "They've never fought humans before." Her plan was bold and dangerous. While the Elunari fleet protected the evacuation routes, human vessels would do things the Voidborn would consider completely irrational. The USS Defiance and 3 other large ships would pretend to have serious engine problems. They would drift directly toward the heart of the enemy fleet, appearing helpless. Dr. Nathan Cole, working with Elunari scientists, had discovered something important about the Voidborn. "They use a hive mind system to communicate," he explained. "All their ships must stay connected to their command vessel at all times. If we can disrupt this system, they will lose coordination." As the massive Voidborn command ship approached Elunari Prime, the trap was set. The 4 human ships drifted, appearing damaged and powerless. The Voidborn commanders saw easy targets and moved closer to destroy them. Suddenly, the damaged human vessels powered up at point-blank range. Their weapons fired directly at the surprised enemy ships. At the same time, Marine boarding teams, led by Commander Powell, launched from hidden bays, heading straight for the Voidborn flagship. The fighting inside the alien vessel was fierce and brutal. The Voidborn were tall creatures with hard outer shells and multiple limbs. They were physically powerful, but the humans' quick reflexes and endurance gave them an advantage in close combat. Commander Powell's team fought their way through narrow corridors, facing enemies at every turn. They had one goal: reach the central communication node of the Voidborn fleet. "Plant the disruptor and fall back," Powell ordered Sergeant Laura Chen when they finally reached the central chamber. "We have 4 minutes before this place becomes very dangerous." Chen placed the device created by Dr. Cole on the main control panel. Its lights blinked as it activated, sending signals that confused the Voidborn communication system. Across space, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Voidborn ships began firing on each other as their coordination collapsed. Some vessels tried to flee while others continued attacking random targets. Admiral Winters gave the final order: "All vessels, attack. Now, end this." The combined might of human and Elunari weapons tore through the confused Voidborn formation. Their remaining ships retreated in disorder, jumping to unknown parts of space. Elunari Prime was saved, but at great cost. 6 human vessels and 14 Elunari ships had been destroyed. Commander Powell's boarding team suffered heavy losses. More than half of his Marines would not return home. In the medical bay of the USS Defiance, Powell sat beside Sergeant Chen's bed. She had been badly injured during their escape from the Voidborn flagship. "Did we win?" she asked weakly. "We won," Powell confirmed. "The Voidborn are running. The Elunari are safe." "Worth it," Chen whispered before closing her eyes to rest. On the bridge, Admiral Winters and the Elunari High Chancellor watched as the last enemy ships disappeared from their sensors. "Your people fought with incredible courage," the Chancellor said, his inner light pulsing with emotion. "You have saved our entire civilization. That's what humans do." Winters replied simply, "We protect those who need protection." The stars seemed brighter somehow as the fleet gathered around Elunari Prime. The war was not completely over. Some void-born ships had escaped, but the immediate threat had ended. Now came the question of what would happen next between humans and Elunari. 1 year after the Battle of Elunari Prime, representatives from 28 spacefaring civilizations gathered for a historic summit. The Great Hall of Unity Station orbited Elunari Prime, its clear walls showing the beautiful planet below. The station had been built by humans and Elunari working together, a symbol of their new friendship. Captain Kelly Wright, now Ambassador Wright, stood beside President Reeves as the Elunari High Chancellor addressed the assembly. The room was filled with aliens of many shapes, sizes, and colors. Some needed special environments to breathe. Others floated rather than walked. All had come to witness this important moment. For generations, we believed that life on high-gravity worlds produced only violence and aggression, the Chancellor said, his inner light glowing brightly with emotion. The Voidborn seemed to prove this theory. They used their physical strength only to destroy and conquer. He gestured toward the human delegation. Then we met humanity. These people evolved on a world that would kill most of us within minutes. They are physically strong, fast, and resilient, true Deathworlders by our definition. But they did not come to conquer. They came to protect. The Chancellor's voice grew stronger. The humans have shown us that strength and compassion are not opposing forces but complementary ones. They use their power to save others. This is the lesson we must all learn if our galaxy is to know peace. President Reeves stepped forward to sign the Galactic Concord, a treaty establishing humanity as full members of the interstellar community. It outlined how different species would work together in the future. Under the agreement, Earth would become a training center for a new joint defense force. Human doctors would work with alien geneticists to help other species adapt to different environments. Elunari engineers would help transform Mars into a second home for humanity. As the ceremony ended, Dr. Julia Foster found herself speaking with a representative from a previously unknown civilization, one that had been watching the conflict from afar without getting involved. "Your people are remarkable," the alien told her. Its body was covered in shimmering scales, and it spoke through a translation device. "We observed how you fought against overwhelming odds to protect others. In our culture, we have a name for such beings. We call them Guardians of the Flame." Foster smiled. "On Earth, we have many names for those who stand up for others. Heroes, protectors, friends. We would like to learn more about your world," the alien said. "Perhaps we too have been wrong about Deathworlders." Later, aboard the USS Horizon, as it prepared for its journey back to Earth, Captain Wright looked out at the stars. Once they had seemed empty and cold. Now they were filled with possibility. Officer Olivia Martinez, who had first detected the Elunari distress signal 2 years ago, joined her at the window. "It's hard to believe how much has changed," Martinez said. "When I heard that signal, I never imagined it would lead to all this." "Send word to Earth," Wright told her. "Tell them we're coming home, but not alone. We're bringing representatives from 12 worlds who want to visit the famous Death World that produces such unusual people." "Should we warn them about our gravity and atmosphere?" Martinez asked with a smile. "The Elunari have developed better protection suits," Wright replied. "Our visitors will be safe, and I think they'll find Earth beautiful even if it seems harsh to them." As the fleet prepared to jump back to Earth, reports came in that the remaining Voidborn had retreated to the far edges of known space. They were no longer attacking anyone. It seemed they had learned to fear the humans, not because of their strength but because of how they used that strength. The ships disappeared in flashes of light, carrying the Deathworlders home. They were no longer feared but honored. They had found their place in the universe, not as conquerors, but as protectors. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, Other civilizations were beginning to listen for signals from Earth, hoping to make contact with the unusual species that had changed everything.